Okay, I can break the silence. So, hello. We are here now to just have a Skype talk together because we have had that idea, me and Asta Kristin, to just meet interesting people. And when me and Asta Kristin were talking the other day, then we were talking about you, Signe. Because I read some of your articles that you have been writing now during these special times that I thought was very interesting. And we were like looking into a lot of different, things that is happening now within the industry and tourism industry, and felt like all of this that we are talking about is so interesting. So why not just record it and put it out there and see what happens? So here we are. So here is
Great.
Signe, Asta.
Oh, so nice to meet you, Signe. Your name, like Daniel said, came up again and again, and also when we were like talking about the articles that you have been like putting out, they are both like really insightful and also a little bit provoking, maybe in a way. I mean, you talk about things that maybe people are more or less thinking about, but not saying out loud, like, is tourism over like we know it? What will happen then? What can we learn? Is there any opportunity in the situation, and so on? And you're also really encouraging, and I think that more people should really get to know what you're doing and kind of be with us in this like wave of new ideas and thinking forward. So nice to see you there.
Very
Thank you
nice
for being
to see
with
you
us.
too. Oh, thanks for having me, because I really think it's so important now that we restart the conversation. We were all, I think, shell-shocked for the first week or so, not really knowing what's happening and trying to figure out what to do. And then now you see this resurgence of creativity and innovation and responses of many different kinds. And I just think it's very important that we commit ourselves to continue talking about what is the effects going to be of this, and how do we reimagine what comes after the crisis. And so I'm very excited to talk to both of you.
So good. And like we have been talking about, where I am here in Iceland, we are really dependent on tourism. Tourism is a big sector, like it is, like most countries all over the world. And I think maybe now many countries see how tourism has been, working in their areas, and all the DMOs all over are like, they have to reinvent how they think and how they do things. And what we started is like kind of an initiative or umbrella for our projects. We call it Restart Tourism. And this is like, we want to get people on board that are good thinkers and are like thinking about the future of this, and kind of have like a think tank together in this. So it would be really interesting to hear more about your findings, what you have like written about, and what you see maybe as the future in this. I mean, is there something that we can learn from, and how can we continue to encourage the business owners and the DMOs to keep in shape for the next, I mean, we will get over this in some time, but what do you think now? What can we do now?
Yeah, it's a very good question. It's like the biggest question there is, right? Because I think what makes this both overwhelming and fascinating at the same time is that no one knows the right answer. And so even the initiatives that you see, destinations and industry launching right now, no one actually knows what's going to work or what will in the end or in the aftermath turn out to be the best response. But from so what we've been looking at are like, what are the different movements that we see? So there's this very, now you mentioned that the title of the first article was The End of Tourism, and that was provocative, which is, you know, I think it was an easy thing for me to say, because I said it before.
Yeah.
And I also said it when I was working with the DMO of Copenhagen a couple of years ago. But now, you know, more than ever, perhaps it does in fact seem like the end of tourism. But what I also think is fascinating about that is then what comes after. And that's, you know, you're talking about restarting tourism, but I do also think that restarting it, but it will be changed. It will not be the same tourism as we know it that we will be returning to. I think we're journeying towards something very different. And one of the things that I've been looking at as part of the responses is, and I know you've had this discussion as well, but now we've been discussing for quite a few years the issues of over-tourism, and how do we manage this massive tourism flow, and people are just continuing to travel more and more, and the destinations have really felt that pressure. And so they've been increasingly talking about the importance of local community and involvement of the locals and balanced growth and all these things that we've all been part of conversations about over the past years. And I think now what I'm really also, in a sense, you know, I'm inspired by is to see that some of the destinations are actually really taking that cue now and saying, okay, well, if there ever was a time for us to show our commitment to the local community, now could be it. And you're seeing all these destinations saying, okay, well, we don't have a lot of tourists coming right now, but we can help the local community, we can help the local industry, support them to make sure that they're still here when we then have tourism again. And I think that's one response that you're seeing right now, which is interesting and may also have longer term effects in terms of what will be the role of the destination management marketing organizations. That's just one thing that I see.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Sorry, I was muting myself for a while because it was a machine outside on the street that was making so much noise. But that also reminded me about the community and everything that is just going on as normal in towns, and like how people are living under the life as good as we can do during these special times. And I think it is also very interesting when you look at now different destinations, and I am, you know, subscribing to quite many newsletters from different destinations, and it's so interesting to see what you get in your inbox and what destinations are telling you, because some destinations are very much, it is somehow up to proof now on who is actually working with destination management for real, or if it has been more about marketing, and just some destinations are just dealing with it about like, we will soon be back, soon everything will be back as normal in a way. But then you can also question this, what is normal, what will be the new normal in a way. And then you can see also other destinations that are very much like talking about how they are dealing with the companies and the industry now, and also the residents, and how they stand. You get a feeling that some destinations are more into this, like they're standing in this crisis together and are working on it to take it, you know, take it on together and work themselves out of it together. I think that is quite an interesting fact. That is also different, like, what do you say, paths that you can see how the different destinations are dealing with this situation. This now.
Exactly. And I think like some of the when we were talking about over tourism just a couple of months ago, you know, one of the points that I've often made is that tourism has a tendency to sort of isolate itself and see itself as something separate from the local community or from whichever destination that they're managing, or and this is really showing that you can't necessarily put tourism forward. This is a crisis that we're all in all aspects of life and across industries. And yes, the tourism industry is among the front lines of this crisis because, you know, of course, borders are closing. And so the tourism industry is really hard hit, but it's also something that we're all in together, not solely the tourism industry or not solely, you know, tourist versus non-tourist, or, you know, this is really a global crisis, and we are all in it together, you could say. And I think that's interesting also in terms of what comes after, because, and that's going back to a little bit some of the scenarios that we're exploring right now in Group NAO, is that, you know, there's this, we are all in it together, this is a one world issue, but there's also closing borders, and, you know, we're all of a sudden, we're also looking at the ones that are traveling in. So you could say in the tourists as the dangerous ones, right? As the ones that are spreading the virus. And I think that stigma moving forward is also going to be quite interesting to explore what's going to happen, and how will we perceive tourists and travelers in our local communities moving forward. Well, we've seen them as perhaps an annoyance for a while in terms of over tourism. You've seen residents turning against it, but it's a completely different thing now, right? Because now they're bringing in something that's threatening us, and you don't have that external threat as much in this situation, because it's, you know, it's whoever is coughing that's that's dangerous to you, that is a threat to your life. And but if we had to identify someone, it would be the tourists, right? Like you have the cruise ships that are not welcome in any ports right now, and you have I think that's going to change the situation quite a lot, and how far will that stigma last is a big question.
That was actually something that I was thinking about yesterday. What will be like the role of, you know, the security, and you know, how will we try to get people back on being comfortable also with the traveling, and I think that, you know, both safety and security in the destination kind of, you know, portfolio has to be really strong. And maybe the you know, the destinations that are really looking into this and how they can convince, and not only convince but also just, you know, do it really well, in that places and destinations, people will be more willing to come there, you know. And also, I mean, we have recognized that we are all part of the same ecosystem in a way, and the value chain is like you were just talking about. I mean, we are connecting tourism and all kind of, you know, other industries together in this. So it matters a lot, you know, what the governments are doing in each country and destination, and what the local government is doing to take care of the residents, and so on and so on. So this picture is so wide and open, and we are just talking about it, you know, here, and not having obviously any solutions. But I think that we need to like put on the table all kind of different thoughts and you know, way of thinking about this forward, just to try to be creative about it as well, because there are hidden opportunities in this, I think. And maybe we don't see them all now, but they are there, and we have to be in shape to be able to like grab them and go forward with them, I would say.
Yeah, I think like just seeing how much we're experimenting. I mean, because in the end, you know, we're never gonna try out new things if we're afraid to try something that's not going to work. And now there's this situation that we would much rather have been without, but it's forcing us to think of new ways of doing things, and meeting like this new people and discussing things, and, you know, it's forcing us to try out all these new things. And I think out of that, even if we would have liked it to be otherwise, out of that something interesting will come, and that will provide new opportunities for whoever is, you know, willing and playful enough, basically, I guess, curious enough to try out, okay, well, if now the circumstances are these, how do I then work with it?
Absolutely. And also, it's not just time to try. I mean, like we have been talking about over the last maybe 2-3 weeks or something. I mean, people are so afraid of mistakes, that something will not, you know, go right, and you're afraid to try it, and so on. But now is just the time to, I mean, like Daniel was just saying, I mean, what's the new normal? We don't know. There is no normal anymore, and we don't want maybe to go back to a normal something. I mean, we are changing, and everybody wants changes, but nobody wants to change in a way. But we don't have an option now. Everyone has to go for the next phase. So that is also really interesting.
So now I was unmuting myself again. I don't know if the machine outside is disturbing. It has never been so much outside my window before. It's funny.
Good timing.
But yeah, they're wiping the streets. It's quite a spring sign for
Yeah.
But what I feel one of the things now that is quite interesting with a crisis like this is that somehow it's of course forces people to be more creative, or you can see those that are most creative will somehow deal with this in the best way. You need to be creative with the business models, or how you are actually building new ways on making life that just now how things just must go on. And one thing that I feel also with this crisis is that maybe what will the effects be from this? Is it like we are sometimes very reactive on things, that we need to do something because something happening? Within destination management, we talk about being proactive and develop for things that we want to happen, and see the efforts that we put in there, that they will be successful for our destinations.
Mm-hmm.
And I am a little bit, I'm not sure what will happen from this crisis, because one scenario could be that you will create plans for dealing with upcoming crises that will come, the next virus, whatever. Some destinations, some countries have more kind of disruptions than others. I mean, I live in Sweden. In Sweden, we don't have that many nature disasters or other things that is disturbing our daily life like that. Iceland has at least some volcanoes and such. But I mean, it is what will be the situation around that? I have some thoughts, but do you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think, well, I mean, you can say that I have some thoughts, I have some observations that I find encouraging, and then there's also responsibility, I think, for all the destinations to continue moving in that direction. So I think one of the tendencies that I do see is new kinds of collaboration, where it's less it becomes much less a question of who had the great idea, but then how can we make this idea, if it works, then how can we make it scalable? How can we share it with as many as possible? Or, you'd call it open source, or, just a sharing on a completely new level, which I find really, really encouraging, because I think even before this happened, talking about sustainability, that was also one of the key issues. Like, how do we make sustainable solutions that work? And then it doesn't make sense in a global agenda to own that idea. It makes sense to share it, because again, much like with this situation, with climate change, with sustainability, we're also all in it together. And, we either all win or we all lose. And it's kind of the same with this situation. And I think that mindset of sharing and open collaboration is something that I find fascinating right now. And the one of the key examples that I saw was not Visit Estonia, but in Estonia, with the startup communities, they started this Hack the Crisis hackathon, online hackathon, which was, first of all, a very good idea when they first launched it, but then it inspired so many others. And now you have Hack the Crisis online hackathons all over the world. And I entered their Slack community, and it's a Slack community of global innovators and hackers, and they're all sharing experiences, and this worked for us, or I can be a mentor for you in India. And it's amazing to see how the whole world is all of a sudden just chatting on a Slack channel to find solutions that can be scalable or transferable. So this is something that I would see moving forward as a new mindset that I would hope was difficult to forget. But what I was coming back to the other point is that I do think we have a responsibility as well, because there are two movements. Either we accept and we work towards the fact that we're one world and we share these challenges, and therefore we also share the solutions, and we need to explore, collaborate, and all these things. But I think there's also a very strong movement towards closing in on ourselves. I mean, right now we're practically all closing in on ourselves because we're social distancing or we're in quarantine or whatever. And I think that avoiding a situation where the world closes down and we become much more of our own, how do you say, like our own, that we create only our own fortunes and our ideas are our own and we keep them because that's how we will survive. I think that's the wrong, that is a dangerous direction for us to go also moving forward. Was that an answer to your question, Daniel?
Yeah, definitely. I think that was very good answer. And I think that is, I mean, it is coming together with so many other things, like how we need to cooperate also now to fight the virus. You know, it is not about closing borders only, but it is also about, we have never had so good opportunities to actually talk to each other and cooperate. And cooperation is what we need, and what happens on the other side of the globe is affecting us here. So I think that is very important. And I think also one thing that I am also a little bit that I thought about, like, will it be that we are building up some plan that we will follow if the next crisis come, or will we still be open for creativity and iterative processes where we are still going and are being innovative? I think the innovative part will always be a very important, because it's always different. I mean, everything that happens in different, contexts and places, it is never the same. So I think it is really important to have destinations that are, putting a lot of effort into being creative and encourage people that have creative and innovative solutions and prototype and test. That is a way forward that I very strongly believe in.
And I think also it's really important for governments from all over the world to invest in innovation now and invest in this hackathon, all of this groundwork that is now happening, because that is that's the fuel that we need to go back, or not back, go forward into a new world. I mean, if we don't have this entrepreneurs and these people that are creative, and Daniel, you have also connected this really well with the design process. I mean, this is just a mindset that I really hope that will not just be forgotten about in this new world. I'm really optimistic about it. Like you just said, Signe, that we either all win or we all lose. So I think that's the key word in this all.
Yeah, but I think, and also what you just said, you said we go back, or and then you corrected yourself. No, we're going forward. and I think that's actually key, right? Because yeah, we're going to have to almost start over again, but we're not starting over on a blank slate, or we're not. In that sense, we have a lot of experience that we're bringing into this rebuilding and reshaping and reimagining, and so second time around, maybe you do it differently. If your house disappears in a storm, you also you learn from the last time you built it, and you maybe do the basis a little bit different, and you
make it stronger.
Make it stronger, put in more windows because you want to see more outside, or there are so many different options. And I think it's difficult to have that in the midst of crisis, but it's also really, really important, because as you said, Daniel, we can't be, we have to work towards not having to be only reactive, but also being proactive. And that's why, even if it's difficult, we have to challenge ourselves in thinking what will be the scenarios. And even where you started, Daniel, saying, as destination management organizations, we've been wanting to say, how do we shape what we want to have to happen? What is it that we would like to see happen? because I think rather than being passive, we can, by having these conversations and imagining what will happen, we can also be part of shaping it, and taking on responsibility.
Definitely. I think that is good words to maybe end this conversation. But I think by saying that, I think it is important to continue talking and have more discussions like this, and just encourage people that maybe watch this, maybe continue the conversation together with us, or together start things up to get inspired. And maybe you have other like topics that you want us to talk about. So our ambition is to have this kind of, we will record our online meetings like this, and then next time it will be about something else. So if you have any ideas out there, please just write to us and say you should talk about this, or maybe you want to take part in this conversation, so we can maybe call you and have you online like this. So yeah, that is what I wanted to say. Do you have something to add?
I think you said it very well.
Yeah, and I think it's really important not to end this conversation. We will pause it, and like you said, we will continue this. And I mean, there are so many great minds out there that we know of and we know already. So it will be so much fun, because we can't forget to have fun. We also have to keep on living, and we have to keep on reminding ourselves that this will be over. This is a phase that is really difficult at the time, but when it's over, it will be so much fun to be on the field again. So thank you so much, Signe, for being with us, and hopefully you will be with us again really soon.
So. Thank you for having me.
Okay, thank you, and take care and stay safe.